Welcome to Crime Podcastle Unsolved Mystery Series,
Oh, yeah.
episode 61. Today we're diving into a case that's both fascinating and heartbreaking, the disappearance of Pooja Srivastava.
It's a story that gripped India back in 2006, and even now, years later, there are so many unanswered questions swirling around it.
Yeah, it's what makes this case particularly intriguing is the stark contrast between Pooja's seemingly ordinary life and the extraordinary circumstances of her vanishing.
Right, you're right about that. So to help everyone understand the gravity of the situation, can you paint us a picture of who Pooja was?
Absolutely. Pooja Srivastava was a 24-year-old postgraduate student at Allahabad University, now known as Prayagraj. She was studying biotechnology, a field she was clearly passionate about. Everyone who knew her described her as bright, ambitious, driven, someone who had the potential to truly make a difference in medical research.
Wow, she sounds like she had a really bright future ahead of her. It's hard to imagine someone like that just disappearing. It is, and that's what makes this case so compelling. Pooja wasn't just a student. She was a daughter, a friend, a member of a community. She led a balanced life dedicated to her studies, but also someone who valued her relationships with family and friends. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through everyone who knew her.
It's the kind of story that makes you realize how quickly life can change and how even the most ordinary day can take a dark turn. So let's go back to March 18th, 2006, the day Pooja vanished. What do we know about the events leading up to her disappearance?
It started as a seemingly normal Saturday. Pooja had a plan to meet a friend at the university library that morning to work on a project. She left her apartment around 9:00 a.m., carrying her usual bag with her books, laptop, and other things you'd expect a student to have. But she never made it to the library.
Wait, so she'd just disappeared on her way to the library
No.
in broad daylight. Were there any witnesses?
There were a few people who reported seeing her walking in the direction of the university, but no one could definitively say they saw her arrive on campus. The police even reviewed security camera footage from businesses along her route, but unfortunately none of it captured a clear image of Pooja. It's like she stepped into thin air.
That's already incredibly unsettling. What about her friend at the library? When did they realize something was wrong?
Pooja was known for being punctual and reliable, so when she didn't show up at the agreed-upon time, her friends started to get worried. They tried calling her phone, but there was no answer. As hours passed and Pooja remained unreachable, the concern turned into real alarm. By late afternoon, her friend had contacted Pooja's family and the university, and that's when the frantic search for the missing student began.
So at this point, we have a young woman who's vanished without a trace, leaving everyone who knew her completely bewildered. That sounds like a nightmare scenario for her family and friends.
Absolutely. And then that evening, a discovery was made that deepened the mystery surrounding Pooja's disappearance. Her bag was found abandoned in a local park.
Abandoned. Just left there in the open.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really strange. Everything inside the bag was intact. Her wallet, her ID, her laptop, all undisturbed. There was no sign of a struggle, no scattered belongings, and no one who recalled seeing anyone suspicious in the park. It's like someone wanted to make it look like she simply walked away.
Okay, now that is seriously bizarre. You'd think if someone was trying to rob her, they would have at least taken the laptop.
Yeah.
This doesn't fit the usual pattern of a crime of opportunity.
You're right. And that's what puzzled investigators from the very beginning. Why would she leave her bag, especially with valuable items inside? Was she forced to abandon it? Did she leave it intentionally? These are questions that have haunted this case for years.
This is already so much more complex than a simple missing person case.
Yeah.
We have a young woman who seemingly vanished, a bag that appears intentionally left behind,
Yeah.
and no clear indication of what happened. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve into the police investigation and see what they uncovered in their attempts to find Pooja.
Welcome back to CrimePod Castle Unsolved Mystery Series, episode 61. Before we delve into the investigation, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer complexity of this case. We're talking about a young woman who vanishes in broad daylight, leaving behind a bag with all her valuables. It's a situation that defies easy explanation.
Yeah, it really does. It's like something out of a mystery novel, but with real-life consequences that are just heartbreaking. So let's talk about the investigation. What steps did the Prayagraj police take to try and find Pooja?
Well, they launched a full-scale investigation, leaving no stone unturned. The park where the bag was found was meticulously searched for any trace of Pooja, any sign of a struggle, or any clue that might point to what happened. Unfortunately, the park, a popular spot in the city, yielded nothing.
It's almost as if she vanished without a trace, leaving only her bag as a silent testament to her disappearance. What about the forensic analysis of the bag? Did that reveal anything helpful?
The bag itself was clean with no fingerprints or DNA that could be linked to anyone other than Pooja. The contents were neatly arranged, which added another layer of intrigue to the case. If it was a random robbery, why wouldn't the perpetrator have at least rummaged through her belongings?
Right, that's a great point. The undisturbed bag almost suggests a deliberate attempt to mislead, as if someone wanted to create the impression that Pooja simply walked away.
Exactly. It's a detail that has puzzled investigators for years.
So if we're looking at the possibility of foul play, did the police have any suspects? Did they look into Pooja's personal life to see if anyone might have had a motive to harm her?
Absolutely. They conducted extensive interviews with Pooja's friends, family, classmates, and even her professors, hoping to uncover any hidden conflicts, resentments, or any indication that someone might have wanted to hurt her.
And did anything come up in those interviews? Was there anyone who stood out as suspicious?
Everyone they spoke to described Pooja in glowing terms. They painted a picture of a kind, gentle, and well-liked young woman who didn't have any known enemies. No one could understand why anyone would want to hurt her.
What about her recent breakup? Could her ex-partner have been involved?
That was one of the first things investigators considered. They questioned her ex-partner extensively, digging into the details of their relationship and their breakup. However, they couldn't find any concrete evidence to link him to Pooja's disappearance.
It sounds like they're really trying to cover all their bases. But with no witnesses, no clear motive, and a bag that seems intentionally left behind this case is already incredibly perplexing. Didn't you mention something about a mysterious phone call earlier? That seems like it could be a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Ah, yes, the mysterious phone call. This is a detail that adds a whole other layer of intrigue to the case. On the morning of her disappearance, shortly before she left her apartment, Pooja received a call from an unidentified number.
Okay, that's definitely suspicious. Do we know anything about this call? Who was it from and what did they talk about?
Unfortunately, no. The call lasted for about 10 minutes, but when investigators traced the number, they discovered it was a disposable phone, a bringer phone with no identifiable owner.
A burner phone. That's like something out of a spy movie. It makes you wonder who was calling her and what they were talking about. Could this be a clue to her whereabouts? Did the police ever manage to identify the caller?
Sadly, no. The disposable phone turned out to be a dead end. They couldn't trace it back to anyone, and no one ever came forward to claim responsibility for the call. It remains one of the most frustratingly unanswered questions in this case.
It's almost as if whoever made that call wanted to remain completely anonymous, which definitely raises some red flags. So we have a missing person, no witnesses, a bag that seems staged, and a mysterious phone call from a burner phone. What did the police make of all this? Did they have any theories about what might have happened to Pooja?
They explored a number of possibilities, each with its own set of challenges and inconsistencies. We'll delve into those theories and examine the lingering questions that continue to haunt this case when we return for the final part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to CrimePod Castle Unsolved Mystery Series, Episode 61. We've been piecing together the puzzle of Pooja Srivastava's disappearance, and it's a case that just gets more baffling the deeper we go.
It really does. The lack of concrete answers is one of the most frustrating aspects of this case. It leaves you with so many questions and a longing for resolution.
Exactly. So let's dive into the various theories the police explored. What were some of the initial explanations they considered?
Well, one of the first theories they looked into was the possibility that Pooja might have disappeared voluntarily. Perhaps she felt overwhelmed by her studies, or maybe there were personal issues she was grappling with that no one knew about.
Yeah.
It's also possible she simply wanted a fresh start, a chance to reinvent herself somewhere new.
That's certainly a possibility. But wouldn't her family and friends have noticed something was off? Some indication that she was planning to leave everything behind?
Right, that's the question that plagued investigators. If she did choose to disappear, it was incredibly well planned. Those closest to her insisted that Pooja was happy and well-adjusted, deeply connected to her family and friends. They couldn't imagine her just vanishing without a word.
It's a tough theory to reconcile with what we know about Pooja. So if she didn't leave voluntarily, what other possibilities did the police consider?
Given the mysterious phone call and the abandoned bag, the possibility of an abduction couldn't be ignored. The circumstances, particularly the undisturbed bag, suggest a deliberate attempt to mislead, as if someone wanted to create the illusion that Pooja simply walked away.
It's like they were trying to create a false trail leading investigators down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Did they have any suspects in mind if it was an abduction?
They looked into a number of possibilities, but nothing panned out. They revisited Pooja's ex-partner, scrutinizing their relationship for any signs of hidden animosity or a motive for abduction, but again, they came up empty.
So no clear motive, no witnesses, and a series of dead ends. This is truly a baffling case. What about the theory of random crime? Could Pooja have been the victim of a chance encounter with someone dangerous?
While statistically speaking, random acts of violence against young women are unfortunately a reality. But in Pooja's case, several factors make this theory less likely. The abandoned bag with all her valuables intact doesn't fit the usual pattern of a crime of opportunity. And the mysterious phone call suggests a level of premeditation that doesn't usually accompany random acts of violence.
That makes sense. It's like every piece of this puzzle seems designed to create more questions than answers. So if we're ruling out a random crime, where does that leave us?
It leads us back to the possibility that someone Pooja knew was involved in her disappearance. Someone who understood her routine, someone who could manipulate the situation to make it look like she vanished willingly, and someone who knew how to cover their tracks effectively.
That's a chilling thought. It suggests a level of premeditation and planning that's truly unsettling. And after all these years, there's still no sign of Pooja. No new leads, no breakthroughs in the case.
Sadly, no Pooja's case remains open, a haunting reminder of the mysteries that sometimes defy even the most dedicated efforts to unravel them. The lack of answers has been incredibly difficult for her family and friends who are still holding out hope that someday the truth about what happened to Pooja will be revealed.
It's a case that stays with you, a stark reminder that even in an age of advanced technology and forensic science, some mysteries remain stubbornly unsolved.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes Pooja's case so compelling and so heartbreaking. It's a story that challenges our assumptions about safety and order, reminding us that sometimes the unthinkable can happen and the answers we seek may remain elusive.
Thank you for joining us on this journey as we explored the perplexing disappearance of Pooja Srivastava. It's a case that underscores the enduring power of mystery and the importance of never giving up hope in the search for truth. If you have any thoughts or theories about Pooja's case, we encourage you to share them in the comments. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and follow our podcast for more deep dives into the world's most intriguing unsolved mysteries. Until next time, stay curious.